As you know, we've had this poaching crisis, the succulent crisis. With Clivia mirabilis, it came as a shock to all of us that this plant is being poached in the wild in such large numbers. There were poaching of one or two plants, which was sort of negligible, but not in such proportions where we are seeing almost that the whole population is almost extinct. So this typically is a picture that I'll get from one of the conservation authorities, and they'll say, you know, we've got these clivias somewhere, what should we do with them? Typically, this is just the leftover clivias that they couldn't maybe stuff in a sack and bring them along. In the last 3 weeks, I would say I've been receiving a lot of plants, overwhelming amount of plants. We're talking over 1,000 plants. And they would send a picture like this at night and say, we've got plants, we're coming, can we please bring it to you the next day or in 2 days' time? We've got nowhere to put them. So at Kirstenbosch, luckily, we had this house. Some of you might have been, and John Winter used to do a lot of breeding in that house. And we decided to use that house as primarily for Clivia mirabilis, to put them in that house. So there is space. Typically, this is maybe when the plants have been counted, because the plants become part of evidence now, because it's an active case. So typically then, when those plants are processed, they'll come to me, they will bring them in these crates, and some of the plants are in a really poor state. They would prepare them well, they would chop off the leaves on top, and the rootstock would be still intact. But you can see the plant would be quite desiccated, and we're trying to nest them back to health. Can you imagine, we over 1,000 plants trying to nest them back to health in this state. Typically, I'd receive them in this crate. The last time I'd received them, boxes or crates, but one of the large consignment that I received was in these crates after they've been at the Karoo Garden and brought to Kirstenbosch. And we'd start potting them because we don't have that much, we don't carry 1,000 pots that are 30 or 35 centimeter in one go at Kirstenbosch. You know, that's not, we don't bulk production in that. So currently we're putting them in these plastic bags because it's easy, and we're potting them in large numbers. As we pot them, they come back more. In fact, I'm expecting more plants next week, about probably over 500 plants that are still part of a case that will be transferred to Kirstenbosch, apart from the ones that we already have. Luckily, we've got currently a number of interns that help us. Kirstenbosch has been fortunate in the last year to have a lot of interns from different sources. We've got the John Ranch Fund, where we appoint quite a few interns, and there's another program called Groensebenza, where we get interns as well, and our normal work experiential training. So why am I here? Because some of you might know all the what we are facing, but to spread this word that we are in a crisis, and you are Clivia lovers, you understand Clivias, and many of you, I know for a fact that you wouldn't like to see these species go extinct in the wild. Not only this, but other species. And I'm here to ask for help so that we can save this species. I could easily say there at Kirstenbosch, we probably have more than 80% of what's remaining plants just in the natural wild. So that's quite a devastating sort of thing. Although the plants, we still have them, we can do something with them because we know their locality. It's mainly one locality. We can still do something to save the plants for the next generation. So what do we need? We need pots. We need...
What size pots?
It varies from 20, it's actually quite good, from 20 upwards, 20, 25, 30, 35. We have big plants as well. Maybe we can accept 40 centimeter plants, pots. And we at Kirstenbosch use pine bark and coir sometimes. We've been trying a lot of coir, and those things work for us. We don't need money, but we need resources available. I think because no one, even myself, had anticipated that we have such a big problem on this single species. Yes, I've grown mirabilis. As you know, when it was discovered, John Winter collected a lot of seeds, sent it throughout the world, here in South Africa, and some of you might have those plants from that initial stock. So we still have those stocks at Kirstenbosch, but it's not a plant that we've really grown. We have knowledge of growing it, but we have never produced it in such volume. So, you know, and here in this room, we've got so many expertise and expert, because some of you have grown, and it's going to be really important that the 1,000 and more plants that we have, some of you, I'm very open for advice to say, you know, I've tried this, just watch out for this, watch out for this. I'm open to people giving advice so that the species does survive. We will be doing some studies. We have at Kirstenbosch some different programs, scholarships that will be offered maybe later in the year to look at different things. We're thinking some genetic studies, restoration ecology, seeds, seedlings, mature plants. I do quite a bit of that particularly work. In fact, my current PhD is on that, on cycads. But there is a lot of similarities, particularly with mirabilis, that it's found in these cloves, and it's dry, and with cycads it's more similar. So there's a lot of things that we can learn from these plants, and also a part that they're also getting stolen. So from there, those studies, we can establish how to bring it back, hopefully back into the wild. But it won't be next year, it won't be the following year. It will be, depends on how stable is, you know, it doesn't help us if we put back the plants and they are pinched the next day or a few months later. So these are things that we are hoping that we can work together. That is my appeal to you. We need each other at this time to get this BC back on track. It would be really unfortunate that the next generations don't see these plants in the wild, and that we can do something about it to bring it back. And in closing, there is initiatives that are sort of starting about social also things, because it starts from social sort of problems that people unemployed, people need jobs somehow, and you know, they see this as a low-hanging fruit that let's just poach these plants and someone pays them for it, but the plants disappear forever in the wild.
Just from my side, thank you so much. A lot of these things have been thrown around in the media and a lot of speculation and so on. And I think it was absolutely fantastic for you to be here today and for your invitation. And obviously one can talk about a lot of things, but I would suggest to the chair and to our committee that we start off and get a coordinated effort. Maybe 1, 2, 3 people, be it our club and or the society, and make an appointment with you and go and sit and talk through the whole thing and plan it, but not next week, like Monday, type of thing, quite urgent.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I can even speak on behalf of all the people, the love we have for this particular plant and for Clivia, we will overwhelm you with our efforts to help. I'm pretty sure, and I just think it must be coordinated, and must be coordinated very, very quickly. That's just my contribution.
Thank you so much for this. Andre?
If I may, I have 3 questions stroke suggestions. The first one is, Sandy has always held the position, conservation through cultivation.
Yeah.
If after John Rourke's initial introduction of a couple hundred plants at about $250 a piece, some of us bought some, they were young plants that he'd grown from seed.
Yeah.
We've heard nothing more about where one can get them, except maybe some of my Chinese contact or my Indian contact or something like that. I don't have such contact. One way to kill the appetite of illicit trade is to have a legal trade.
Yeah.
It's like the rhino debate, you know, the elephant tusk debate. It's a difficult debate, but it really needs to be thoroughly debated. A legitimate source of young plants. Secondly, we're referring to pots for planting up. My own view, not based on mirabilis, but based on other Clivias, is you're probably going to do better in a heavy-duty bag, especially if your intention is ultimately to replant them in the ground somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably a better route. Then I had a third point which I've forgotten, so I'll tell you if I remember it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre.
Oh, I do remember. A repository. All these plants that are saying, you can't just stick them in a tunnel somewhere in a bag.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan for them.
Yeah.
It would be nice to know what the plan is.
Thank you, Andre. Maybe to answer you before I get to the next question, there is a sort of a rough plan that we have. The first thing is that some of the plants are being sent to other botanical gardens. We're not keeping everything at Kirstenbosch, which is great. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we want to make the plant available as much as that's a really intention, whether it's plants or seeds and so on, for that to survive, for the species to survive, you have to do that. I quote a cycad sort of related story. This cycad rivulata, which is Asian, particularly China, is in Japan you find it, but also in China south you find it. When that plant was discovered, some really clever conservationists and people who were around it, they decided, let's harvest as much seeds each year and send it around all over. And those plants are still in the wild today. The easiest plant you can find in a nursery, if you go to any nursery, Revoluta, because of that, that was started. Here we did do something initially, John Rock and John Winter, with other parties that were involved. They make the plants available, but I don't think it was enough, and to the even wider market. The third thing is that some people now want, because these are slow growing plants, we know that if you've grown them, you wait for quite a while. Yes. Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah. So people want instant, things. Just like what we do with cycads, people want big plants so that they can cone instantly and they can have return on their return or enjoyment of the plant. So yeah.
There's one major problem here, is that people are spreading all sorts of rumors out there. Social media's gone mad. Social media, when the first 1,000 came in, somebody put on social media, they were all at Kirstenbosch. People, somebody's been paid, somebody's got to deliver. Kirstenbosch parameter is fairly leaky. They can pinch cycads, they can pinch them. Please, we need people just to zip up. We need to take the emotion out of it. There's stories coming up that people were attacked in their homes because of mirabilis, which is not really true, but people are whipping people up and people are adding stories and adding tales and adding little bits and people of stories to it. I'm asking, please don't go out and discuss now, because there's probably a Chinese contact in amongst us. They all know where the plants are, they all know what in conditions they are, and we're fighting a losing battle. Whereas if we just deal with the plants quietly, quickly, get them back on the path to health, store them somewhere that nobody knows where they're stored, our chances of survival are a lot bigger.